This is a very special video, an exclusive preview of an app. NES fans and collectors won't want to miss this. Hey everyone, John here. We're doing something different today. We're looking at an app for fans and collectors of Nintendo Entertainment System games, and this preview is an exclusive first look. That's right, I'm providing you some fresh new content that you can't get anywhere else at the moment. And if you want me to get you some more exciting stuff in the world of retro gaming and random geekiness, be sure to hit that subscribe button, as it helps a lot. Thanks. Now, this is Ultimate Game Guide for NES by Embraceware, an app for the array of Apple products including iPhone, iPad, and Mac, and also available for Android. Previous versions of the app already do exist, but what we're seeing here is the newly redesigned version 3. It is a considerable revamp that this newest incarnation is worth a look even if you've used a past version. So a big thank you to Jerry Brace from Embraceware for providing me with this pre-release build to peruse and prepare this exclusive preview. What I'm showing you here is practically the same as a publicly released version, though there may be more fixes, features, and functionality when it's formally launched, plus even more fun features that are planned for the future. As it is, it's already fulfilling to flip through. Described as a gaming and collecting resource for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Ultimate Game Guide for NES contains loads of information for all known NES games ever released on a cartridge, whether licensed or unlicensed, or released in North America or PAL regions, including Europe and Australia. There are even games from Asia and specifically Hong Kong in here. Included are details on variants and even promos and test cartridges. This app is a companion to Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library 1985 to 1995, a book by Pat Contri that you may have seen me review previously. The app is a standalone product, but the contents of the book provide much of the foundation. Indeed, the reviews in the book are also available to read in the app, minus the reflections blurbs. The 4 or 6 screenshots per game are the same for the most part, but besides presenting this in a handy format to view on a mobile or tablet, there's also additional information and interactive features. In this view, the games are displayed in the visual homage to the classic World of Nintendo cabinets as seen at certain retailers back in the day, and which many collectors like to acquire to showcase their NES collections. An animation of glass doors opening greets you when you open the app. You can also choose to view boxes or cartridges, or with this World of Nintendo shelf view, or a list view. Towards the bottom are various sorting and filter options. So if I filtered for all licensed games and sorted by cart price, descending, you'd see that we have stadium events at the top and hoops at the bottom. Who cares about hoops? Besides the preset filters, there are also numerous custom filters that can be combined. Let's try this out. Okay, Jace, what do you think we should search for? You like 2-player games?
Yes, I do like 2 players.
Okay, we're gonna do 1 to 2 players simultaneous. Okay. What's your favorite genre, or what genre do you want to see?
Beat 'em ups.
Alright, let's see some beat 'em ups. So if I choose genre, beat 'em up, apply, okay, and then let's stick to North American and licensed. Okay, so we filter that and there we go. 8 games. Were you expecting that many games, Jace?
I thought there were more.
Yeah, well it seems like they're the popular ones, right? You got your Double Dragon, Battletoads, River City Ransom, Ninja Turtles. So there you go. 2-player simultaneous beat-em-ups that are North American licensed games. When you click on a game, there are the fundamental details at the top, like the genre, release date, number of players, and the publisher. And then, further down, the developer, whether it is licensed or unlicensed, and if it has any special features, like if it has passwords or battery saves, or makes use of certain peripherals. There are reviews and screenshots, which as mentioned are directly from Pat Contri's Ultimate Nintendo book, as is the rendered image of the cartridge with its label. But unlike the book, you can also now view its variants, if it has any. Another thing that's not in the original book, obviously, is this nifty 3D box view where you can tap to rotate to see the back, and one of the sides briefly. There is other visual media here, including scans of advertisements, promotional inserts, posters, and magazine covers. There are also random things, like the letter from Uncle Steve for Star Tropics, and special tips from the champ for Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! Hey, that's a letter to Mike and a letter from Mike. Besides being a guide for general NES game info, it's also a guide for when you play these games. Tips and codes are presented with a manila envelope background, which mimics the popular classified information section in Nintendo Power magazine, as it appeared up until the end of 1995. Game Genie codes are presented with the same layout and icons as in the original Game Genie codebooks. These are fun flourishes. Now for some interactive features. You can mark whether you are playing or intending to play a game, or have played or completed it. This could certainly be handy for checking if you've completed every cartridge in your collection, or it could coerce you to challenge yourself to conquer every NES game that you can. The rating with the gold stars is the published score as seen in Pat Contry's Ultimate Nintendo Guide to the NES Library, and the user rating in white is a community rating calculated from averaging the user ratings daily, so you can influence this by rating the games on a 5-star scale. For collectors, you can track cartridges that you own, as well as boxes and manuals. You can also set up a wish list by pressing minus to go less than 0 so that it says wanted. Once you've logged in what you own, you can go to your profile page to see a summary, including how many games you have, their estimated value, what the most valuable game in your collection is, and the average value of your games. In the collecting fields, you can see the prices of a game according to current values as estimated by pricecharting.com, which, like the ratings, are also updated daily. Speaking of collecting NES games, Nintendo Quest follows the adventures of game collector Jay Bartlett as he tries to obtain all of the official NES cartridges within only a month. If you are a collector, you might want to snag one of the last remaining DVDs of Nintendo Quest that I have left. After all, collectors prefer physical media, right? Check out my eBay link in the video's description below. There are direct links to Amazon and eBay to search for that particular game if you want to buy it, as clicking these links takes you to those pages with NES plus the game title in the search fields. Obviously, whether or not there are any to buy is based on availability, and games without unique titles don't always work out. Like if I'm searching for the game based on the MTV game show, Remote Control, it searches for NES Remote Control. But instead of the game, it gives me a bunch of links for NES and Super NES controllers. Anyway, that silly search is not really a fault of the app, but I thought it was amusing in this particular case. It is convenient to go from checking out what you're missing to immediately buying it with only a few clicks. And to clarify, these interactive features including game rating, the play checklist, and a collection accounting are all available whether or not you create a profile. If you do these things without signing in, it all goes into an anonymous profile. Setting up a login merely allows you to have the information accessible between devices, like if you have an iPhone, an iPad, and want the same information to show up on both. Despite its name, Ultimate Game Guide for NES has more than just games. You can also click Accessories and Systems at the bottom if you want to learn more about or check off any controllers or consoles, which are all presented the same way as the games. Pretty nifty, right? But now, let's get into the nitty-gritty with this 8-bitty app. Are there really any not-so-great bits? One possible concern is the specificity of the app. If you are a collector of games across multiple platforms and like to have your entire collection all tracked in a single app, then this one might seem redundant to you. I actually think it's good for the scope of the app to be fine-tuned and focused, for both accuracy and presentation. So being just about the NES is really its strength, which I'll get into later, and not a weakness, unless you're already reliant on another app. As for this app itself, there isn't much here that would be fair to complain about. You know I can be nitpicky when reviewing books. Erroneous texts and images have physicality to them, and I feel justified in calling these out. Like, how could someone have committed them to print? But this is a digital app that can and will be updated frequently. In my preview time with this, I point out some errors and oddities to Jerry, mostly minor, such as tips that were worded strangely. Nothing earth-shattering in the first place, and he has been quick about fixing them, even if more errors come to light after the app is officially launched. Knowing that Jerry is dedicated to continually supporting and updating it means that no factual inaccuracies or bugs would be permanent. Jerry has been responding to reviews on the app stores for past versions, and the website for Embraceware has a feedback form, so I'm sure he will be happy to deal with any valid concerns that are brought to his attention. At this time, and I emphasize this, just for now, the pricing data for individual manuals and boxes isn't pulled from pricecharting.com. If you have them both with the game, that is, complete in box, then the pricing should be accurate, just as the loose carts alone, so it's a minor thing, unless you somehow hoard a lot of boxes and manuals on their own. And the pricing data for those is indeed promised to be in an update soon anyway, so depending on when you see this may already be a moot point. And currently, the codes, tips, and Game Genie codes are a little sparse, but it's unsurprising that this early build isn't totally bulky. Jerry says this could be endlessly updated, with more tips over time, so it makes perfect sense that not every code or tip that could ever exist would already be here. Just enough to start with, and see how this would look like. And how this looks is delightful, which is where we segue into the great bits. I don't think I've seen a game collecting or reference app that looks this good. Just look at it! Look at it! The background for Nintendo Power's classified information used for the tips and codes, the Game Genie codes presented like in the original codebooks, and the recreation of the World of Nintendo cabinets for the grid view are all nice visual throwbacks, while looking very slick and professional. The animation of the glass doors opening, accompanied by a sliding sound, may be unnecessary in a practical sense, but oh so appreciated. This shows the high level of care that Jerry has put into this. As mentioned earlier, being specific to the NES allows for these flourishes, and probably unlike other collection apps, there are lots of scans of advertisements and posters and magazine covers, which is pure nostalgia. Then, each box consists of sharp, spotless scans, of not just the front, but the side and back as well. The cartridges appear as renders, just like in Pat Contry's Ultimate Nintendo book. These look cleaner and more consistent than photos would, and they are very accurate. It's not just slapping the box art verbatim on the image of the cartridge, which is obvious in cases where the cartridge label is quite different from the box, like Shingen the Ruler or Palamedes. And then, the non-standard cartridges. We see that the Zelda games originally came in gold cartridges, of course, but we can really appreciate the fidelity most, especially in the unlicensed games where the colors, shapes, and even sizes of cartridges are different. Check out the cartridge renders for Dizzy the Adventurer, which was only released on the Aladdin compact cartridge format, and Cheetah Men 2, which has a clear shell and doesn't have an image on the label at all, and has the same misspelling of Cheetah Men without the second H, as on an actual Cheetah Men 2 cartridge. Variants like the different labels for Gunsmoke, The Untouchables, and Wayne Gretzky Hockey, among others, are here too. Even I am learning and re-remembering things just by looking at all of these. This is incredibly comprehensive. As much as I love all the NES books I've read, they generally don't go into detail with all the variants of labels and boxes, and certainly not as thoroughly and interactively as in this app. Books can be pretty impressive, like when you want to look smart and stack them up all over the place. But to be practical, it's really nice to have the information in an app that's actually both fun and convenient to browse through anywhere. It's certainly handy for collectors to check off games as they acquire them when they're out and about, at retro game stores, flea markets, or conventions. Assuming you don't just use the eBay links right in the app itself. Other than using the external links, this app is all pretty much offline. You only need to be online if you are saving your collection details to your profile in the cloud, because all the game information is within the app when you download it. It's even smaller than the previous version, despite having much more content, so you'll actually be saving space on your device if you updated it. Plus, the migration of your collection information from that, I have been told, should be seamless. There's all this information, but it's easy to find what you're looking for. There's a search bar, as well as being able to filter and sort. But it also isn't hard to scroll through. I've always preferred the APA style of alphabetization, which is what is used here. Basically, this style of alphabetization ignores spaces and non-alphanumeric characters. I was originally going to go on and on and on about it, but in the interest of time, I would just say this is how all listings should be, but very few are, so I appreciate this. There are many great bits here. That's pretty clear. It looks magnificent, it's very informative and helpful, it's actually fun to browse, and this is just as it is right now. To think, there are still more features that Jerry has in mind that have yet to be implemented. I won't promise anything on his behalf, but the app could very well be at a low point right now if it only gets better from here on. So that's Ultimate Game Guide for NES. As stated, it is available for Apple and Android devices. If you're using a tablet, the view is larger than on a phone, but otherwise it's all the same information. The price for the app is $6.99 Canadian or $4.99 American, and this is a one-time purchase. There are no subscription fees, no in-app transactions, and all future updates will be free. I could have mentioned all this incredible value in the Great Bits section, as well as that there are no ads in this app. I mean, of course there are scans of magazine ads as historical content, but I mean, there are no current live advertisements for other apps or products. It's nice to see an app that isn't supported by commercial interruptions and distractions. I haven't reviewed any apps on this channel until now, but I don't think it's a stretch to say that this feels like it sets the gold standard for aesthetics and accuracy, which should hopefully push other developers of similar apps to up their game. And this is all made by one person, Jerry Brace, who does all the coding and design. Amazing. I feel like Ultimate Game Guide for NES could or should be the definitive NES collecting app. This easily gets a 5 out of 5. And good news, an app for the Super NES is coming out soon as well. Check out Embraceware.com for more information on Jerry's various projects. So, what do you think? Do you collect and or play NES games? Would this app be of use to you? Jerry has provided me with some codes that can be redeemed for a free copy of his Ultimate Game Guide for NES. The specifics as to how to qualify for the giveaway will be in the description below. And while you're down there, you could hit the thumbs up to like this video if you found this exclusive first look to be worth your time. Now you're not just playing with power, you're also collecting with power. Keep gaming, keep geeking out, and we'll see you next time.